In 1980, Motorhead entered the studio to record their fourth album, Ace of Spades. If you didn't know, it's named after a playing card. You're welcome. They were doing pretty well as a band at that point. In the previous year, they had released 3 albums. Overkill, which reached number 24 in the UK album charts, Bomber, which reached 12, and On Parole, which didn't perform as well as the previous 2. To be fair, they did record On Parole 3 years earlier, and it was released without their permission, but that's another story for another day. Despite that, they had no idea how stratospheric this new album, especially the lead single, would send them. For vocalist Lemmy, though, it might have been a bit too high. So let's go through the full Ace of Spades story, and if you love delving into music history like I do, click subscribe and join our pack. And don't forget the Joker! The song, that would later become a defining anthem of heavy metal and hard rock, began life in Rockfield Studios in Wales, a place already familiar to the members of Motorhead. Ian Fraser Kilmister, or Lemmy as he was known, Fast Eddie Clarke, and Philthy animal Phil Taylor. They had decided to write their new, as of yet untitled album there. According to Eddie Clarke, though, they spent the first week or so doing a lot of drinking and not a lot of working. But when they did finally decide to do some work, they found that songs came together very effectively, and soon they had stumbled upon the origins of the Ace of Spades riff. As any sane person would, they immediately recognised the potential and built up a rough song around the riff. Some accounts say that Lemmy was away from the studio at this time and that Phil and Eddie were responsible for the foundations of the song. They decided it would be a good idea to record some of their rehearsals in Rockfield Studio, so they hired a 16-track mobile recording unit and, well, recorded the songs, including the very early instrumental version of Ace of Spades, and this early instrumental recording was eventually released in 1989 on the album Dirty Love. Back in England, at Jackson's studios in Rickmansworth, Motorhead went about adding vocals to the track. It was around here that the title Ace of Spades first appeared. Lemmy recorded a few lyrics onto the track and they moved on to the next song. These were still only demos at this time, so they didn't invest a whole lot of time or effort into the song. But with the demos in the bag, it was time now to find a producer. The record company and Motorhead's management were very keen on Vic Mail, someone Clarke described as a nice bloke, very soft, big hooter, short hair. He'd also worked with Lemmy's previous band, Hawkwind. According to Eddie Clarke, the band didn't really care who produced the album, they just wanted to get it recorded so they could get back on the road and do what they do best. So recording for the album took place from the 4th of August to the 15th of September 1980, and when it came to add backing tracks to the songs, they realised that Ace of Spades could do with an upgrade. So there in the studio, Clarke and Lemmy rewrote the riff, which was something very unusual for Motorhead to write in the studio. The riff was completely changed, and soon they realised they had a surefire hit on their hands. In fact, it only took a few hours that day for everyone to agree that the album should be called Ace of Spades. Now, for the lyrics, Lemmy doubled down on the title and went about cramming as many gambling references as possible into the song. Lemmy described it as just a word exercise on gambling, all the cliches. In his 2002 autobiography, White Line Fever, he wrote this: "I used gambling metaphors, mostly cards and dice. When it comes to that sort of thing, I'm more into the one-armed bandit, actually. But you can't really sing about spinning fruit and the wheels coming down. Most of the song's just poker, really. I know you've got to see me, read 'em and weep, dead man's hand again, aces and eights." While he didn't play much physical poker, he did play a lot of slot machines and video poker, particularly at his favourite bar, the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Hollywood's Sunset Strip. During Lemmy's final days in 2015, the owner of the bar moved this machine into his nearby apartment so he could continue playing. Back to those lyrics though, Lemmy claimed that he wrote them while in the back of a transit van speeding down the motorway at 90 miles per hour. Whether you believe that or not is up to you. Clarke thinks it was more likely to have been written on the toilet. Telling louder, he used to do that. We'd say, man, we need some lyrics for this, so he used to go for a dump and write the lyrics. But if he said he wrote it in a transit van, then you've got to believe him. Much less rock and roll than speeding down the motorway in the back of a van. And speaking of not very rock and roll, for the song's breakdown, or the tap dancing section as Lemmy used to call it, Vic Mail got all 3 members of the band to stand in front of a microphone with wood blocks to add to the percussion of that section, according to Clarke. And it might just be me, but I can't really hear any wood blocks in the final mix. I'm more concerned with the guitar and drums punching me in the face. Anyhow, Ace of Spades became the band's signature-defining anthem, and a massive hit, staying on the UK singles chart for 13 weeks, and reaching number 15. Quite a rare feat for a track so raw and aggressive. Clarke hailed it for cutting through the noise of that era. No other Motorhead song afterwards would reach that same level of impact, which Lemmy found quite frustrating. In White Line Fever, his book, he wrote, "I'm sick to death of Ace of Spades now. We didn't become fossilized after that record, you know. We've had quite a few good releases since then, but the fans want to hear it, so we still play it every night. For myself, I've had enough of that song." According to Lemmy, he sang the 8 of Spades for 2 years without anybody noticing. And this does seem to be a common phenomenon in the music industry, doesn't it? Artists or bands growing tired of their biggest hits. We've seen it with Radiohead and Creep, for example, or Nirvana and Smells Like Teen Spirit, or even Led Zeppelin and Stairway to Heaven. Sometimes a song becomes so massive it brings in the wrong type of crowd. Other times it's simply the annoyance of having to perform it night after night. And sometimes artists will simply grow and evolve and no longer relate to the lyrics or the music of that time. Lemmy told Louder Than War in 2011, "The records are much better now than Ace of Spades or Bomber." He then took a swipe at those 2 albums, saying they're not even good. Primitive, bad sound, bad equipment, and in a lot of cases played really badly. There's something good about it if you were 16, but the moment has passed. After Ace of Spades, their popularity faded amongst the general public, but for big metal bands in the industry, they were hailed as icons. Groups like Metallica revered Motorhead, covering songs like Overkill and Damage Case. Motorhead's raw punk metal fusion was ahead of its time, drawing attention from fans of both genres and beyond. The track helped kickstart the new wave of British heavy metal, a term later applied to bands like Def Leppard, Iron Maiden, and this wave of heavy metal began as punk rock started to die down. It's this combination of the ferocity of punk with the power of heavy metal. Despite being considered a borderline one-hit wonder by casual fans, Motorhead's later work showcased their willingness to explore more experimental material, such as the concept album 1916. Beyond their loud, aggressive rock, Lemmy ventured even further, writing the ballad Mama I'm Coming Home for Ozzy Osbourne, and exploring blues with Whorehouse Blues. While Lemmy grew to hate the track, Clarke never felt this way. It's a fantastic track, it's got a natural speed, a velocity of its own, it's got a great arrangement, and it rocks like a bastard. And Lemmy's lyrics are fantastic, he said. Now, for the story of another unexpected hit in British music, go and watch my video about the incredible Teenage Kicks by The Undertones. It's over there.